Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace is the most overhated Star Wars movie of all time, in my opinion. And in this video, I will explain to you guys why I think this way as a Phantom Menace glazer. And on that note, hi everyone, I hope y'all are doing fine. If you are new to this channel, hi, welcome. And if you want to support this small channel of mine, don't forget to subscribe to it. I'm trying to reach 200 subscribers. Leave a like or dislike if you want. And now, enough yapping said, let's start this video. Spoilers alert for The Phantom Menace. So, Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace was released on May 19, 1999, almost 16 years after its predecessor, Return of the Jedi. So, in the meantime, the fanbase has grown up and became full-on adults. They've probably rewatched the old trilogy many times, and when this new one came out, the reception was mixed. It was criticized on many aspects by its older fans, and nowadays, I see more love for this movie than ever before. As a kid, I've grown up watching and loving the prequel trilogy, and from what I've seen these last years online, I wasn't the only one like this. Each Star Wars trilogy has developed a different fan base over the time, because they were all released through different time periods. And personally, as a kid, I fell in love with the prequel trilogy, and my first introduction to the world of Star Wars was The Phantom Menace. As I grew up, I started to understand the criticism given to these movies years ago, while also disagreeing with some of them. And so, in today's video, I decided to respond to these criticisms by giving my thoughts on this movie. The Phantom Menace is most certainly not a perfect movie. It does suffer from many flaws. However, despite its flaws, I think the movie is still a fun watch. We follow the journey of some likable characters trying to free a planet from an invasion. Throughout the events of the movie, we meet new allies, new planets, and fight new battles. The movie explores deeper political problems that this franchise has never explored before. Most of the characters were likable, and they all had an importance to the plot, whether it was a small one or a big one. The movie is packed with action sequences, and you are guided through it by the music and the pacing, which were great in my opinion. Now, it's time for me to respond to this movie's main criticisms. To start off, on the contrary of some critics, I didn't find the story dry because it was diving too much into politics. This franchise has literally the word wars in it. It's in the heart of this universe. Wars are mainly caused by politics, and this movie showed exactly what a conflict might turn into. I find it so funny that back then, this franchise was criticized for diving too much into politics, when nowadays it is praised for doing so in some shows like Andor. I think the critics back then were just not as open-minded as we are today. Another criticism that I've seen online is about how awkward the dialogues are. And you know what? I actually agree with that. Though, I think it gives this movie its charm. I find the people of Naboo and the Jedi to be really classy, and I think the way they speak is reminiscent of their character's personality. During the emotional parts of this movie, I would agree that the acting made these dialogues really bad and awkward. But elsewhere, I think it's just a classy way to speak in this universe. What made it awkward for me was the acting and the directing. You see, even if Liam Neeson spoke in this awkward way, I think he made the dialogues feel natural, and his acting didn't disturb me at all. On the contrary though, Natalie Portman's portrayal of Queen Amidala felt a bit weird, because I didn't feel like her acting was carrying some emotions, especially when she's a queen that cares about her people. She was reading her lines, and when she had to demonstrate emotions, I feel like they were forced. Another criticism that I've seen online is about how poorly used some of the characters were, with the most obvious example being Jar Jar Binks. Yes, I agree that Jar Jar is annoying as shit and ruins a lot of the parts of the movie. Did Ahmed Best, the actor portraying Jar Jar Binks, deserved the hatred he got? Absolutely not. He did a good performance in my opinion. It's just the role of his character in the plot that's annoying to me. He's just a non-funny comedic relief that is clumsy as shit and creates chaos everywhere he goes. Now, did I find Jake Lloyd's performance as a young Anakin bad? No, I did not. Not every kid actor is as good as McKenna Grace. And honestly, I think Jake gave a nice performance. The media gave him too much pressure, and I find it quite disappointing how it all turned out for him. Jake's performance as Anakin represented pretty well a young person dreaming of much more than just being a slave, and he did give an emotional performance too. Now, I've also seen some criticism about Obi-Wan's character usage being underused, and that the spotlight was too much on Qui-Gon. My response to that would be that it is true, but I don't feel like it's a problem. Obi-Wan is not the main character of this movie, and I don't feel like giving him more screen time or developing more his character would have changed anything in the plot. Yes, it could have set up how important he would have become later on in the next movies, but honestly, this movie's storyline being shared through Qui-Gon Jinn made it more interesting because his character was fascinating to follow, and I like how different he is to the others. It also made the movie's ending more impactful, seeing how he would end it. And finally, yes, I think Darth Maul was so f***ing underused. He had a cool design, a menacing aura, but that's it. This character's journey was not properly developed, which made him a wasted potential because of the few lines he got and his non-existent backstory. Another criticism that I have seen online is about how inconsistent the story was and how slowly paced it also was. Now, for the inconsistency, I think it's true. The movie does go from some serious moments to Jar Jar Binks doing whatever clumsy shit he does, and it made the movie awkward to follow. Now, when it comes to the pacing, I didn't find the pacing too slow because of the dialogues, like some critics said. Yes, the movie certainly has a lot of dialogues that takes a large amount of screen time, but I don't feel like this time was wasted. The dialogues were important to the plot, and making them go faster would have made this movie harder to follow and understand. The movie sets up its political environment through the dialogues, and watching a movie without understanding its environmental context behind it makes it often hard to follow. Another criticism that I have seen online is about how the CGI is overused. Yeah, it's true. It did lose some of its realism because of it. The movie looks so bad nowadays because of how outdated the CGI is, whether it's some special effects or some green screens and environments. The movie is honestly hard to look at nowadays because of that, and I find it pretty disappointing. Another criticism that I've seen online is about how there's a lack of emotional weight. I actually disagree with this take so much, and here's why. The emotional aspect of this movie, for me, was shown through the character's journey, and especially through Anakin's. He started his journey as a young slave and had to leave his mother, who he has known since he was born, to become a Jedi. He also lost the master who was supposed to train him and who freed him from Tatooine. His journey was sad, and I think it's a great introduction of how fucked up his life would become later on.
Dudes, the Empire's pretty chill.
We became attached to this character because of it. The only part where I would agree a bit with this statement is when it comes to the stakes of Naboo. I feel like, as a viewer, we didn't understand the impact that the invasion had on Naboo. There was no scene demonstrating how horrible it was for the civilians. And so, because of that, we didn't get to understand the stakes of this invasion. And finally, the last criticism that I've seen online is about the introduction of midi-chlorians. Many people argue that it demystifies the Force and that it turned it into a scientific thing. You know what? Here, I would agree and disagree. You see, it depends on what you're seeking when you're watching a Star Wars movie. Do you want the franchise to stay mysterious about everything? Or do you want answers about how everything works in this franchise? Me? Personally, I'm fine with having both. But now that midi-chlorians are canon, we have to accept the scientific aspect of it. And I'm still fine with it, because the Force is still largely mysterious. And this is just a portion of an explanation. But I do understand the people that criticize it. And so, overall, I think the Phantom Menace is overhated. The movie had a lot to offer at the time, and I think people didn't realize that yet. Yes, this movie has many flaws, especially especially when you watch it nowadays. But I still think that, overall, it's a fun watch. What do you think of the Phantom Menace? Tell me your opinions in the comment section down below. Leave a like or dislike if you want. Subscribe if you want more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!